Today we are diving into one of the most powerful and, one of the most controversial business philosophies of the modern age, lean manufacturing. It's a system that absolutely changed the world, but boy, did it create some friction along the way.
So let's just start right here. This is a quote from a totally fed-up worker on Reddit, talking about a super famous book on lean. I mean, wow, it just perfectly captures that raw anger so many people feel towards this system. They see it as just another tool for managers to squeeze every last drop of work out of them. But is that really the whole story?
Because on the flip side, you get data like this. Back in 2015, Volkswagen needed about 600,000 employees to make 10 million cars. Toyota, the company that basically invented lean, made almost the same number of cars, with nearly half the people. That's not just a small difference, that is a staggering, almost unbelievable gap in productivity.
So there it is. That's the central question for us today. What exactly is this thing called lean? And how can a system that is so wildly effective on paper be so completely despised on the factory floor? Well, to figure that out, we've got to go back in time.
See, before there was lean, there was mass production. This was the system perfected by Henry Ford, and it literally built the 20th century as we know it. Ford's genius was, in hindsight, kind of simple. He combined standardized, interchangeable parts with an assembly line of workers who didn't need specialized skills. Each person did one small, repetitive task over and over, and it worked. Productivity shot through the roof, costs plummeted, and suddenly, cars were something the average family could actually afford. It was a complete revolution.
But this revolution had some really deep hidden flaws. To keep that assembly line moving at all costs, factories kept these massive stockpiles of parts. They called them buffers. But these buffers hid quality problems for weeks. A bad part would get made, and no one would know until it was already installed in thousands of cars. All the defects were only caught right at the end, which meant there was a huge, expensive rework area to fix everything. And the workers, they were treated like cogs in a machine, with zero input. The whole system was just clogged with waste.
And that's where our story shifts, to post-war Japan, and to a then-struggling automaker called Toyota. They saw the sheer power of Ford's system, but they also saw all of that waste. And really, out of pure necessity, they had to find a better way.
So, in 1950, Toyota's leaders, Eiji Toyota and Taiichi Ohno, they fly over and tour Ford's plants. They were blown away, but they knew they couldn't just copy it. Post-war Japan didn't have the space for giant warehouses or the money for massive stockpiles. So, for the next few decades, they developed something totally new, the Toyota Production System, or TPS. Fun fact, it wasn't even called lean until the late 80s, and it didn't really explode onto the global scene until the 90s. So, what is it? Well, lean thinking is really built on 5 core ideas. First, you define value, but strictly from the customer's point of view. What do they actually care about? Then you map out the value stream, every single step it takes to deliver that value, and you get rid of anything that doesn't contribute. Third, you create flow, making sure the product moves smoothly without any stops or delays. Fourth, you establish pull. This means you only make something when a customer actually orders it. No more building for the sake of building. And finally, number 5, you pursue perfection through constant, relentless improvement.
Now, that 5th principle, perfection, it's powered by this incredibly important idea called Kaizen. It's the Japanese philosophy of continuous improvement. And this isn't about some massive one-time breakthrough. It's about empowering every single employee, from the CEO to the person on the assembly line, to find and fix hundreds of tiny problems every single day. This is the real engine of lean.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, this all sounds like old-school factory stuff. Assembly lines, car parts. What does this have to do with today? Well, it turns out the principles of lean are more relevant now than they have ever been.
I mean, just look at the modern smart factories of Industry 4.0. They're running on AI, automation, and real-time data. But what's the foundation? It's lean. The goal is exactly the same. Eliminate waste, create that perfect flow, and respond instantly to what the customer wants. The tech is just a powerful new tool to achieve those classic lean goals.
And this has a massive real-world impact. A McKinsey survey found that during the recent global crises, companies that had adopted these kinds of technologies, which are often guided by lean thinking, were just way more resilient. A whopping 94% said it helped them keep their operations running.
Think about it. Lean helps modern companies navigate all the supply chain shocks we're seeing by not relying on huge inventories. It improves sustainability because it's obsessed with cutting out waste. And When it's done right, it empowers the entire workforce to become problem solvers, which is maybe the most critical skill you can have today. It all sounds great, right?
So, let's get back to that angry Reddit comment we started with. If Lean is so brilliant, why do so many workers absolutely hate it? What is the disconnect here?
This comment from that very same thread really hits the nail on the head. The writer suggests that the problem isn't the philosophy in the book. The problem is how it gets put into practice by management.
And this right here perfectly illustrates the divide. You've got true lean thinking on one side, and then you have what many people actually experience, which you could call corporate lean. The ideal empowers people, respects them, and focuses on getting better together. But the reality is often this top-down, cynical cost-cutting exercise, where consultants who don't understand the real work come in and just try to make people work harder and faster.
So here's the bottom line. The system turns toxic the moment that continuous improvement becomes a code word for layoffs. When all the gains from becoming more efficient go straight to the top, and that core tenet of the Toyota system, respect for the worker, is completely thrown out the window. And that brings us to what is probably the most important lesson from this whole lean revolution.
Lean fails, and it fails spectacularly when companies treat it like a toolbox. They hear about tools like 5S for organization or Kanban cards for managing workflow, and they just try to copy and paste them onto their existing broken culture. They completely miss the point.
Because true lean was never a set of tools you just implement. It's a fundamental change in mindset. It's a human-centric culture that respects and develops its people, trusting them to see waste and empowering them to improve their own work. It's about building an army of problem solvers, not just getting more output.
So, let's end on this thought. If you stop looking for some magic tool and you start seeing lean as a mindset, as a way of constantly, humbly looking for a better way, you can apply it literally anywhere. So, the final question is for you. Where in your job, your home, or your life is waste hiding in plain sight?